Good morning, everybody. We're thrilled to see you here for the third annual Encore Affinity Group Summit. And I see some people walking the streets, and I see people who are getting set up for our session today. So thank you all for coming. My name is Doug Dixon. I'm the secretary and co-founder of the Encore Network. And Jim McGinley and Jen Butz and I have organized today's summit, and we all of us want to welcome you here with us today. We have a lot planned, and so I want to make certain that we all stay on mute because distractions can hold us up, and we want to make certain that we are able to do all the things that we have planned to do, and which I'll talk about just in a second. I did want to mention that we will be recording the sections of the summit that don't include the breakouts. We can't record the breakouts, unfortunately, but we will record and we'll share that information along with other things that are described during the course of our conversation today. On probably Friday, but in a couple of days, you will receive that. And so you don't need to take careful notes. If you want to refer back to anything, you'll have it in front of you in a couple of days. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we will start with an overview of our emerging strategy. This is not finished, and that's why we want to be hearing from you today, your input that can help us address any issues that you feel strongly about and make sure we're not missing something. And then you'll hear from each of the affinity groups, and they'll be talking a little bit about the work that they do, as well as what they see as some of the implications, at least initially, of the strategy on their work going forward. And then we'll meet in breakout. And the point of the breakout will be to discuss in more detail what the implications of the strategy may be for the work of each of the affinity groups. And then we'll come back together for a brief kind of review of that discussion, and then we'll close out. I want to note that today's session is 75 minutes, not our usual 60. So we will be adjourning at 1:15 Eastern, 10:15 Pacific. So prepare to hang in there with us for a few extra minutes today. So with that, and by the way, if you have questions or comments, feel free to use the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. And if we can address any of those questions as we go, we will. So thanks again for all of you joining us today. And now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Jen Butz. Jen is founder of WonderCrone. She's been a member of the Encore Network, actively involved in our reimagining service as Affinity Group, as well as others. And she's been a part of our strategic planning committee as well. So Jen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Doug, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I have been really privileged to join this extremely dedicated and smart group of, I guess there's about 8 of us on the strategic planning led by Doug and by Kindred Murillo. And so it's been quite a process. And it actually started with the affinity groups. If you'll remember, can I have the next slide, Erin, please? Doug and I reached out to the affinity groups, gosh, maybe back in November or so, and started having very quick focus group kind of questions. We ripped through 6 questions, in one case in 12 minutes, so that was a little thrilling. But we got a lot of really great input. And what we saw was actually a consistency of kind of directions, gaps, opportunities. And we're really hoping that those are reflected in the draft strategy that we're here to discuss today. What did not change is the vision and the mission of the Encore Network, which was revived and revised several years ago. And so the vision is still very much a world where the opportunities of longer lives are fully realized, fueling stronger communities, a more inclusive economy, and meaningful contribution for all. So that is still the vision. And then the mission is we mobilize leaders, professionals, and allies to activate the power of experience through employment, entrepreneurship, and service. And again, in the draft strategy, you will still see these three organizing principles of employment, entrepreneurship, and service as the through line. Thank you very much. The strategic 3-year goal, now stepping into the actual draft plan, doesn't look just isolated. In fact, that's quite the opposite. It's not just an insular sort of Encore Network analysis. We really started with, if this is our vision and this is our mission, who do we need to bring into our circle of action? You know, who's already doing things that align with what we do? Where can we add to a value proposition rather than repeat whatever is already going on? And so the strategic goal that we set for the Encore Network is to become the indispensable engine for activating the power of experience in an era of longer lives. Because we recognize that we're not talking 50 to 75. We're really talking sort of 50 to 80, 90. So that's a considerable amount of time in this era of longer lives. Who we identified as wanting to bring into the conversation already exists, but by being more intentional about it, we feel like we can gather up resources and work toward that strategic goal that I just read. So of course, individuals are key. Organizations, I'm working counterclockwise. Organizations, so employers and nonprofits that leverage experience to drive impact and results. Society, so again, that stronger community piece that's in the vision. And then also the economy, so economic factors that we have to engage with, or we might even input into, which we will see in just a moment. And if I'm speaking very fast, it's only because I have 8 minutes to get through all of this, so I apologize. So, okay, you will also have the slides as well after the sessions. So there are 5 strategic priorities within the draft, and I keep emphasizing that because we're really looking for your input here. What success looks like. So these are our conceptual metrics of not just progress, but success. The first is insight. So Encore Network is the authoritative voice on experienced workers' opportunities. And you'll notice we're not saying aging or aged or older or seasoned. We're bringing in the notion of experience throughout, because in this day or in this era of disruption, experience is steadying, it gives perspective, and it integrates well with the super fast AI world that we're increasingly living in. So that's why you'll see experience throughout the strategy. The second priority is influence. Encore Network's research is translated into action, and not just action that we create, but moving to the next priority, exposure. So that research and action translates into greater visibility among those we feel we can make a contribution and an impact in order to serve those 3 pillars that I talked about before: employment, entrepreneurship, and service. A fourth success metric is growth. So growing an active and retained membership community. So we've been growing slightly in the last year, certainly in the last 2 years, but this is a really dedicated push to grow more. And the ultimate goal of success in the 3 years is 1,000 members, sustained active members. And then I've just used the fifth priority, sustainability. So active membership, exposure, research all translate into sustainability, and that looks like diverse revenue that supports our long-term impact. Next slide, please, Erin. So we call this the strategy flywheel. So nothing stands alone. And the overall strategy is, how do we connect action to impact? And again, I just gave you the 5 broad areas of impact, but what does that actually look like? So we imagine it's sort of, think of this as a spiral rather than a circle, but we're living in a 2-dimensional presentation. So first, research produces data. That leads to insights, and insights are data that drives an action agenda. Again, in and among those 4 areas, those 4 sectors that were in the second slide. That leads to influence, where action builds credibility and impact. That leads to opportunity, and then exposure. So this greater visibility attracts members and partners. That leads to growth, which means members and partners generate revenue. And again, that revenue funds more research, which is sustainability. And none of this is necessarily linear, but this is sort of like a clean pathway that we can identify in a way to sort of present what the concept of the strategy is. Next slide, please. Erin's multitasking, by the way, so that's why it took a second. Okay, so I mentioned pathways and intersections, and this is where I have to start talking with my hands. Our focus, these 3 pathways, the employment, entrepreneurship, and service or service roles, again, consistently presented in the concept of not only who we are today, but really consistently as we look forward to the next 3 years. And then these cross-cutting themes, multi-generational collaboration. It's not just individuals who are in our age group, but we must start connecting intergenerationally in order to create the kind of dynamic and the impact that we're looking for. Another theme is ageism from self, that's a big one, and others. A third is healthy aging and social connection, transitions and life design, the intersectionality of fairness and equity, which really gets to governance and distribution of resources, opportunities, etc. AI and technology, and finally, financial security. And you'll notice that in some cases, oops, go back, honey. There we go. These are, some of these themes are brought up in our affinity groups. Others are not currently, although they might be. I'm not going to present modalities right here because I don't have the time. But again, that might be something that you bring up in your breakout groups that we're moving quickly toward. Okay, now next slide, please. Thank you. So the affinity groups, and what I'll do is I will invite each of the leads of the affinity groups in this order that's on the slide to give us a 4-minute introduction of what your affinity group is and does. So, and each one, please, as soon as you have your 4 minutes, just go on to the next one, again, in the order of the slide. So, Doug, let me invite you to talk about over 50 employment, please.
Hi, everyone. Lem Lloyd, San Francisco Bay Area. Yes, so Doug and I have been working with a bunch of folks on the employment over 50, over 55 affinity group. And we've really, you've heard that this is one of obviously the core points of the strategy, or our mission is to give people with experience the opportunity to continue to have meaningful impact. And for many folks, as we all know, outside of the bubbles in which we live, continue to make to get an income to survive, because you're going to be living until 95. That's the good news. The bad news is that you're going to be living in 95 sometimes. So our group is really focused on a bunch of things. One of the things that was really interesting that we have with us, as as members, are people who have really great experience in higher education. So, what is the role of higher education to help with retraining and to help experienced workers, folks who want to maybe get back into the job market, kind of re-enter the market, do second or third acts. We had Victor Ortiz, who many of you know runs, who's on the board, who runs a facility and a great program in New Mexico through the community colleges. And he came and he talked to our groups about kind of what he is finding and kind of what that kind of community college group organization is doing. We've heard from members about job fairs that they've attended in different parts of the country, which is the focus, which has been on employing older or experienced folks. We heard in Colorado. We've also tried, as you heard from Jen and Doug, I think it's really important that we reach out beyond ourselves to help the organization grow, but also to leverage some of these other larger organizations. So we spent a lot of time trying to talk about kind of what partnerships might be really good for us to leverage. Several of you might know we had Stanford Center of Longevity speak to the wider Encore group. We have a session next month, which I would encourage you guys to attend, from one of the leaders of LinkedIn, who's the editor for Jobs and Careers. And he's going to give a whole talk about how to leverage LinkedIn and what LinkedIn is seeing across its billions of users for folks that are quote unquote experienced or over a certain age. He's also going to talk about ageism and what they're seeing across their network. We also spent a lot of time looking at the state of the employment industry and recruitment. And as you know, it's not really good. A lot of the leading companies that make money or that are public, whether it's Indeed or ZipRecruiter, are not really doing well. And the job market is really depressed. And that has really kind of made it hard to kind of bring up our issue, which is to try to help HR leaders really embrace and to change their job functions and their classifications to be more welcoming for older folks. So I think we have a lot of great stuff. I think one thing that we all want to do more is work with employers to actually see some of the progress. And so that's going to be one of our major missions as we go forward, is to see how we can partner and identify employers that are really doing and leading the way to hire more experienced folks. And I do see, I think, just a thing in the question in the comments or the chat about when is the date. I think it's July 15th. And I know for the LinkedIn exec. So we'll be sending out some more stuff. But I think it's a great group. We all really contribute. And I think for those who want to join and kind of even pop in for a session or two, we'd love to have you.
Great. Thank you. Mary, could I invite you to explore your affinity group, please?
Well, I'm neither Mary nor Doug, but I am stepping in for Mary today.
Thank you, Lynn. You had me speechless for a minute.
My name's Lynn Friest, and I'll also say that I'm in Illinois in the midst of a thunderstorm, so hopefully I stick with you, but there's always that possibility. So I'm here to represent the Encore Entrepreneur Group, and we again, as it says, we're interested in how do people with our talents become entrepreneurs. And there's a good reason to say that we could or should, because people over 50 are much more successful as entrepreneurs than people that are younger than that. And actually, as Len talked about, and others, we have skills, we have experience, we have wisdom. And that all of those things are very useful as far as making a successful entrepreneur. Now, one of the pieces we've done in conjunction with others, we've put together the Encore Solopreneur Hub. It's on the website. You can access that real easily. And but we've tried to pull together resources so that, again, often people say, well, I spent most of my career in the corporate life. I don't even know how to start becoming an entrepreneur. Well, we've pulled together a whole lot of resources that, again, they won't necessarily teach you everything you need to know, but they will certainly get you off to a good start. And we're working to see how can we provide support for people, once they have the knowledge and the skills and some of these new ideas on becoming an entrepreneur, how can we support them to do that? This is what I've been doing in the last 10 years since I left corporate life, was becoming an entrepreneur. So it's certainly possible, and we look forward to helping people do it. So with that, I pass it on.
And I've just put into the chat the link to the Solopreneur Hub.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynette Riley, and I am representing the Affinity Group today about Service Reimagined. So there are two emerging trends that have supported the Encore Network in deciding to birth this particular Affinity Group. Employers, nonprofit organizations, civic and community organizations are increasingly looking to multi-generational solutions, and yet at the same time, they don't often have the tools and the framework to be able to implement what it is they are learning. That's one. The second trend that we are seeing is more people are seeking purpose, connection, and contribution throughout their entire lives. And I believe this becomes even more important. We've already heard people are looking at 70s and 80s and even into their 90s. So they might not be working in a formal work environment anymore. And that whole ability to be of service becomes even more important as far as meaning and purpose. This Service Affinity Group is pretty new. We are just celebrating basically our first anniversary, and we have a working mission statement. I'll read that to you. And that's to create a focus on all the ways people over 50 add value by serving the needs of others in their communities and beyond. And so service is a big word. There are opportunities that are formal opportunities, like volunteering for a nonprofit or serving on a board or in a local government. But what is missing that we're trying to figure out how to capture more of is the informal. We have people that bring meals to neighbors, are providing daycare for grandchildren or rides for somebody. So it's all of those informal ways. So there's both formal and informal. And we have some questions on the table right now, and that's how to be able to engage and educate people about the possibilities regarding service, how to be able to change the narrative about service, and how to activate people and help them recognize their contributions. And so developing the answers to these questions are going to be part of our focus as we move forward. We spent our first year together doing a lot of learning. We had guests and experts come in to talk about topics about what kinds of opportunities are available on boards and commissions, both locally and statewide, and even what kind of elective offices are available out there, and what kind of formalized service roles are out there, and how can we connect people to those roles through technology. And as you've already heard, there are three areas in the strategic plan: employment, entrepreneurship, and service. And the first two have gotten a fair amount of airtime already, and already access to opportunities for ways for people age 50 and over to earn an income. Service is in a different category. And the goal of the network is to create a larger role for service that places it on equal footing with these other two areas. It's not an afterthought. It is something that we do in various ways throughout our whole life, including as we are older adults. And there's also some confusion out there or limited thinking regarding volunteering. It's a skills-based thing, or you go in for a day and do something. And the Encore Network wants to broaden this idea of service and how people think about it to include all of those ways, both formal and informal ways adults have in being able to work, and what kind of volunteer and value that brings, whether it's formal or informal. And I thought this was pretty interesting. The kinds of service that are informal add up to more than $1 trillion in the economy. And we have to figure out how to be able to capture that and highlight that.
Lynn, I'm going to
because-
have to hold you there because we're going to need to move on. But that's a shocking number, and it really does show the power.
Yeah.
Thank
And I'm just would like to invite anybody who is interested. We need some new muscle and some new innovations. So come join us today in our group.
Okay, thank you, Lynette. All right, Jim, over to you, please.
Hi, my name is Jim McGinley, and along with Clint Wilkins, co-lead our Allies Across Ages Affinity Group. Allies Across Ages started as an intergenerational affinity group about 5 years ago, and we changed our name last year after the Encore Network Summit to reflect our focus on working and learning together on important opportunities. We explore, feature, and support initiatives that connect people across generations in order to remove barriers through understanding and opportunity for people of all ages. We share our experiences, advocate for change, and seek out projects that support this goal. We believe that the 2022 article by Chris Farrell in Forbes titled "The Future of Aging is Intergenerational" applies not only to our affinity group, but all of the Encore Network. We do support the Encore Network draft strategy and believe our contribution specifically addresses the cross-cutting themes that apply to all three pathways of employment, entrepreneurship, and service. And the themes that we directly address are multi-generational collaboration and AI and technology. One example of this is our initial pilot, focused first and foremost on intergenerational collaboration and offers the opportunity to use AI as a tool to address a social issue that the pilot wants to tackle. Our model includes partners who have intergenerational and AI resources. In our initial case, partner organizations include Champions of Caring that has 30 years of intergenerational work, and Joint Family, who is skilled at intergenerational AI involvement. Champions of Caring brings us the relationship they have with Temple University and its students and older adults who are Encore Network members. Our goal is to launch this pilot, learn from it, and then apply that experience to other affinity groups as well as other organizations to attract new members. This experience brings us into another opportunity. At the university level, there's a lot of negative reaction about AI. You probably have seen recent university commencement speakers who extol the virtues of AI and get booed. We are running into that a bit at Temple as well. It's really an opportunity to join other partners who are involved in constructive dialogue at the university level. For example, the Einhorn Collaborative is supporting the College Presidents for Civic Preparedness Coalition. Over the next 5 years, this national effort will reach 4.5 million students across 400 institutions of higher education, providing students with many opportunities to engage in constructive dialogue and collaborative problem solving before they graduate. Importantly, students also want to practice and develop these skills, motivation, and mindsets. We, the Encore Network, can be involved more broadly with constructive dialogue with our breadth of experience and using key skills like empathy and utilizing active listening. In many respects, with the 3-year Encore Network strategy, all of us are working on building an ecosystem. It requires picking important topics like AI, working with like-minded partners to make an impact while clearly delivering on our unique value add. We look forward to working with our fellow affinity groups and conducting intergenerational pilots addressing how AI can support important affinity group initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That sounds fascinating. And let's wrap up then with, I think, Kendall. And you're on mute.
Hi, thank you so much. What a powerful foursome that preceded me, and I would like to just talk about this particular group, transitions and life design, that is about what's next. Over to my right is this dreaded road. It looks good from the beginning, but as you get past the curve in the road, what is your life going to look like? And the emotions and all the ideas that sort of are swept into this vanishing point become an issue for transitions. This is one of the two legs of this two-legged stool that this AG is working on, is looking at transitions and what is that process like, and how the way we approach transition and change in our life is probably outmoded. There's this idea that it's this is a 3-act play, when in fact it may be a 4 or 5-act play. It may be something that looks it's a linear intellectual process, whereas it may actually look like a plate of spaghetti, that it is confusing, it is overlapping, it is winding, it is intersecting. But what do you do with all this madness? And trying to find some way of articulating the fact that there may be pathways through these transitions by looking at some of the latest resources, for one thing. And it's like finding an image, perhaps, for our own individual path through this. This AG is, I think we may be the newest kids on the block. I think we're still sort of a little wet behind the ears. So we're formulating what this program is. Many of our members come from the Life Planning Network, which was its own freestanding stool all by itself for 20 years, and now has become a member of Encore. And this particular AG initially has a lot of Life Planning Network members, but we're reaching out and want to incorporate everybody who may be interested in both looking at transitions and also the life design process, which is the next part of what we do, is provide a framework, a practice room, a rehearsal studio for your ideas. Like maybe you want to write a book, but kind of like how would I possibly the idea of a book when it comes out of my mouth sounds very strange and overwhelming, but come to our website, come to our AG and practice saying I want to write a book, or practice saying I want to go back to my original home, my family home, learn a sufficient amount of that language to be able to communicate with the village that my grandparents came from, and see this as a life mission, something of purpose that never occurred to me up until this moment. So what we want to do is nurture those ideas that you have and ideas you are yet to have that can frame the life you want to live. Now, one of the things that's kind of fascinating by this is not just for people who are, at a certain bend in the road, but it's for people who are younger too, who may benefit from some of the thinking that we do about what's the quality of life. How do we live a more purposeful, a deeper life, and perhaps asking questions that we've never asked before. And what are those questions? I mean, because somebody, one of my clients once said, if I knew what the right question was, I'd be able to answer it, but I don't know what the right question is. And so what we're doing is trying to help, see what the right questions may be. And we've got a number of different sort of approaches to take. We're looking at the potential for, and I love this word experience, because what are the powerful experiences that we are yet to embody within ourselves, to recognize. And we may have overlooked some of the experiences we've had. We don't see them as important enough to even mention.
Yep.
Yet all of a sudden, that this is the time in life to sort of see that actually by being in this point of the road, that we thought of experiences that are new to us.
Kendall, I want to come back to, excuse me for interrupting. I want to come back to you on the questions piece because that's what we need to move to next. But the transitions affinity group just sounds fascinating, and I'll be signing up.
Oh, good.
So, but for now, let's move quickly because we're under constraints. I want to thank all of the presenters. And Erin, if you could bring us back to the slides. If she's there. I know she's already set up our breakout groups, and that's what we're going to be moving to next. And while we're doing that, Kendall, I have to ask, did you paint that painting?
No, I did not. I wish I had.
Oh, yeah. Erin, do you have us, can you put me back to the slide?
I am trying to bring them up while I still, without messing up all of the breakout rooms.
Oh, yeah, don't mess those up. If you can't, I can go ahead and put the questions into the chat and give the instructions verbally.
Why don't we do it?
Let's do that just to make sure.
Okay. All right. So let's not mess with success. All right. So, hang on while I'm clicking like a mad woman here. I've just put into the chat the questions that we'll be exploring. Now, listen carefully because there are rules. The first one is identify the breakout group's note taker, number one, and a spokesperson. Because after you explore these two ideas, you will identify one key essential theme that emerges from your breakout group, and then you'll be sharing that back in plenary as Doug described in his introduction of the agenda. All other ideas, we'll still capture them, and we'll ask you to share those with Kindred Murillo, and we will share her email after the breakout groups, just so you have it fresh, but it will also be included in the final notes that come after this session. So again, identify a breakout group note taker and spokesperson, have a great discussion, distill one theme, and then be prepared for the spokesperson to share that back into plenary. And frame your conversations around, the two questions that I have to hit send on, the two questions that I just popped into chat. So with that, Erin has assigned us breakout groups, and now she's going to do that button magic thing. There we go. See you all soon. And you have what? How much, Doug?
20
minutes? 20 minutes. Bye.
Erin, is everybody back?
Should be. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, we're on this short string here with a timeline. I'm going to facilitate our getting feedback from the breakouts. And what that means is a maximum of 2 minutes on what one topic, one idea you want to share with the group that came out from your breakout sessions. And we'll go through the same order. Lem, could you please start us off with up to 2 minutes of feedback?
Yeah, we actually have Paula who's going to be talking for our group.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Great. So we were in the 50 plus employment group. So are we just doing the second question or both questions?
Anything you want to bring up? Feedback
All right.
on the strategy or ideas that you're going to implement, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do both. So we did like the strategy. We love the 3 pillars and the flywheel. I think one of the feedbacks was in order to do a lot of this new and evolve to the new strategy, a membership drive and increasing members is essential. So glad to see that in there. What we thought we should have some consideration is of the role of research, especially if that's starting the flywheel, that taking into advantage of the existing work of a lot of members as research that already exists. Maybe some of that needs to get refreshed, but really, and Deborah, of course, brought up driving a participation in people putting research in the library so that it is available. But in the end, I think that the most impactful thing that we thought our group can do, moving on that, is really, and it's the last feedback for the strategy, is focus on action versus a lot of focus on research. And so that's also what we think the most impactful thing we can do as part of our group is focus on action. And the biggest action is getting the employers involved, because a lot of us feel like that's what gets in the way of a lot of our strategies to get older adults back to work. And so it's getting every member access to right materials so that we can meet one-on-one or with HR groups in our local communities and really go through the business case of hiring older adults and evaluate the impact of the changing job market. When we created the employer's guide, for instance, that was a different job market than it is today.
Time's up.
Evaluating that. So
Time's up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lynn, please.
I believe Paula was going to speak to what
All
we
right.
talked about.
Yay
Go
to
for
the Paula.
Okay, yes. Okay, the entrepreneurship group, that there is a good bit of overlap in what I just heard from the other group. One, I think, overarching observation was that there needs to be some real impact visibility for the Encore Network and for the work that folks are doing within the network. It was suggested that there's an article or multiple articles in a really prominent publication might be something, but that we all realize that among the folks that we know, very few people are aware of the Encore Network and even of the concept of what the Encore Network is offering. And that by getting this out in as many ways as we can, that it will not just create visibility for the Encore Network, but also kind of stimulate thinking along the lines of what the Encore Network has to offer, and that there are many other ways of living other than just what we have in our heads. There's many more opportunities that can really enrich our lives. Also, the idea of promoting success stories to create impact. There was a suggestion, one of the members from a group she's taken part in, that they have primetime awards and people can serve as role models, but various ways of thinking about bringing this to the forefront and bring it out into the universe beyond what the work that we're doing here as a group. So
Thank you.
that's it. Okay.
Thank you, Paula. And just a
Yep.
reminder to everybody, you obviously don't have enough time to capture everything. Please get your notes in after the session. Turn over to Lynette. Is Lynette?
Gerard is going to be our spokesperson.
Thanks, Lynette. Yes, what's right, what's missing? We had a lot of comments came about. Primarily, we realized the fact that people are always in search of purpose and meaning, and there's productive ways to spend your time, the entrepreneur group, etc. A lot of people are pursuing economic means at this point, but in the service component, it's a situation where some of us no longer have necessarily a need for the finances. So some of us are moving into that direction. As a group, we've discussed how research fits in to our group overall. We've reviewed the landscape, and as a result of having different speakers and so on throughout the course of the year, we're going to be putting together a panel this fall to help consummate some of the thoughts and processes and so on. We found out that what we're really trying to do here is connect members to service opportunities. That, for example, there's different boards that have requirements and needs, and we have people with experience, but it's how to make this come together. And so we're going to explore different ways, venues of maybe making that happen in a sense. We all have different experiences, but some of those seem to overlap with each other, and we're going to look at those commonalities and see how we can move things forward. But basically, we're going to try to put these pieces together on a national sense so that we can identify and capture again, possible opportunities of service for our members to be able to apply themselves in the future.
Impressive, Gerard. Right on time. Thank you. I'll represent the Allies Across Ages group, and as far as the overall plan, very enthusiastic about the direction. And in 8 minutes, there's only so much that can be covered, but the strategy and the tactics to pull us all off are details that presumably are in the plan someplace, and we'll look forward to that. There was a comment about where does health fit? And I know there's been discussions about another affinity group in that area, but had that feedback. As far as our Allies Across Ages impactful idea to advance the strategy, we want to leverage our first intergenerational pilot at Temple University and then leverage that learning with other affinity groups. And just so everybody knows, our design principle for this pilot that we're working on is that human connection is the foundation, and technology is a tool to help us learn about, respond to, and act on issues we care about. So we have a pilot objectives that we can help modify and customize to other affinity groups to meet their needs. I will say there have been discussions with Doug Dixon about Joint Family, one of our partners, engaging with the entire Encore Network, and the executive director of Joint Family, Dia, is with us today and was helping us out in our breakout group. And Barbara Shaman from Champions of Caring has indicated a desire to be involved with other pilots. And so we can definitely modify our pilot approaches to meet affinity group needs. I'll turn it over to Kendall to wrap it up with comments.
Our note taker is Doug, and I'll shift the lens over to him.
Can you say that again, Kendall? Maybe.
Doug was our note taker.
Yeah. Doug, are you there?
Oh, sorry.
You're back on mute, Doug.
You're muted, Doug.
I thought
He doesn't have much experience with these, so you'll have to forgive him.
Sorry about that. Fred was going to be our note taker,
Fred was.
Fred, go ahead.
Also known as Doug Dixon, number 2.
Go for it.
Okay. My name is Fred Mandel. Sometimes I go by Doug Dixon, but that is today. So we are the Transition and Life Design Affinity Group, and we had a wide-ranging discussion a number of different things. One of the things we talked about is the importance of execution of these terrific ideas and strategies. But one of the things that did emerge is when we look at that virtual circle of the flywheel, and we look at the critical role that research plays and its connection to AI and technology, that there is a real opportunity for us to bring two things together in a way that could be transformational. One of them is we've been using the term experience a lot. And by that, we mean life experience of each of us individually and collectively. And the other is the way in which we can use that experience to inform and shape our relationship to AI in a way that helps us co-create a future and a comprehensive archive of research that could be very valuable to the growth of the direction of the Encore Network and ways to carve out a distinct value that the Encore Network brings. So there's an opportunity, in other words, for us to model the way in which we use AI that is distinctive based upon our life experiences.
Great, thank you. We'll now turn it back to the real Doug Dixon.
And I just want to say, Aaron, we won't need the slides because we are at time. But I just want to call attention to a couple of things coming up. By the way, before I do that, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Jen, and I want to thank the Affinity Group leaders. I want to thank the people who participated in those conversations and reported out. This is very useful information. And we'll be taking all of this back to the strategy committee, and you'll be hearing more as the summer goes on. Our goal is to have this wrapped up in a format that we can then begin to implement by later in the summer. So look for that as a next step. But I do want to call your attention. Lem mentioned the event on July 15th. That is Andrew Seaman, who is the editor-at-large for LinkedIn for jobs and career development. And in that role, he sees all the latest trends. He sees a lot of stuff coming across the screen and comments regularly. He has over 1 million people that subscribe to a newsletter that he creates. So he has a lot of influence, but he also is in a position to see a lot of data, a lot of trends, a lot of patterns, a lot of information that can be very useful. So he's going to share his learning from being in that role over a period of however long he's been doing that, but also his view from the inside, his sense of what's coming, and in particular how it applies to older adults. So join us on July 15th for that, and on July 21st in our Healthy Aging series, Coffee Chats, we'll be talking about a topic that has been kind of hidden and not broached until recently, but has huge impact for people at this stage of life, and that is the impacts of menopause and perimenopause, particularly in women, but frankly, for all of us. So something for us to be much more aware of and to be thinking about in much more constructive ways. So those are two events coming up in July. There are other things going on. You get our newsletter, you'll know. And we encourage all of you who have not yet joined the network to make that happen because participation in our affinity groups is a benefit of membership. So if you're not currently a member, join and become part of the activity of the various affinity groups. And I just wanted to say one more thing, and that is it's easy to start an affinity group. So if there's something that you would like to see started that creates a new focus for affinity groups, let me know or let any of the other people who are on our board know, and we'll work with you on that. So with that, sorry that we went over a little bit, but thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for participating in today's Affinity Group Summit, and we look forward to seeing you all soon at another event. Have a wonderful afternoon.